This week was supposed to be my break, my first one in nearly 2 years of uploading weekly. But of course, one of the mega corporations decided to do something to make our skiing experience worse. So here we are. Yes, you read that title right. Skiing has gone Disney. On October 13th, ski industry giant Alterra announced their so-called reserve program. They weren't the first to do something like this, but as far as I can tell, they are the biggest and most widespread. The concept is simple: pay a significant sum, get a more premium experience. The perks include access to certain restaurants and facilities, call them clubs if you will. Some include parking, but the real centerpiece of this video is the one thing everybody notices: skipping the lift lines. Now, as I said, this isn't a particularly new idea. For years, Powder Corp, the owner of Copper Mountain, Snowbird, Mount Bachelor, formerly Killington, and a few other smaller mountains, has run a similar program, albeit solely for lift lines. The best way to understand the impact of these passes is to look at it on a smaller scale. So let's start with Copper Mountain. Launched in the 2021-2022 season, the Fast Tracks program allowed you to purchase an add-on to either a season pass or a day ticket that yields entry to express lanes for the most popular lifts: Super B, American Eagle, American Flyer, Timberline, and a few others. This past season, I happened to win a free Fast Tracks upgrade because I skied several days at Copper in November. I used that upgrade on a Sunday in February, and let me tell you, it was an absolute game changer. I didn't keep an exact count, that's on me, but by my very conservative estimate, I saved over 2 hours that I would have otherwise spent stuck in lift lines. Of course, Copper's Fast Tracks range from $50 to $100 per day. For me, needing to film a bunch of blues for this channel, that was worth it. But for a purely recreational day, I'd say it sits on the borderline of worth it. Copper has offered this option for years, and I've never seen a substantial number of people use it, so the lift lines haven't been meaningfully impacted. There's a case to be made that this might all be a big deal over nothing. Then, on the other end of the spectrum, there's Palisades Tahoe's Apex Club. I couldn't be bothered to inquire, but I heard through the grapevine that membership starts around $12,000 a year. It's a brand new program, granting access to ski school lines at lifts like Summit and Siberia, along with a collection of other luxury perks. It notably does not include priority access to KT22, because there would quite literally be riots on a powder day if people skipped that line. Interestingly, it does offer priority access to the base-to-base gondola, so there's still potential for chaos there. Time will tell. Somewhere between the ultra-luxury of Apex Club and the bare-bones express lanes of Fast Tracks lies Alterra's reserve program. According to Peter Landsman of liftblog.com, participating resorts include Big Bear, Crystal Washington, Snowshoe, Solitude, Sugarbush, Winter Park, Tremblant, and Blue Mountain, Ontario. The passes range from $700 at Solitude to $2,700 at Tremblant, and they are purchased on top of a season or icon pass. The lifts that each pass covers vary widely. Sugarbush gives access to just one out-of-base quad, while Crystal offers access to all of its detachables, covering most of the mountain's terrain. Many resorts are offering single-day add-ons, typically around $200. At first glance, most people's reaction is, it's so expensive no one will buy it. That's probably true, but even if few people participate, the effect will still be noticeable. Stand in a long lift line and you'll notice the couple of people heading straight to the front. The second, or perhaps first impression is, it's just a cash grab. Welcome to the ski industry. Honestly, I'm surprised it took this long for mountains to implement this. Now, I know many of you have strong opinions, and for the most part I agree. But my role here is to be the impartial informant, so before getting into all the drawbacks, let's first break down the logic behind premium passes, especially those aimed at skipping lines. I'm not here to justify it, just explain the reasoning. The main idea is choice. You know the saying, time is money. In this case, you have a choice between paying with time or paying with money. Another argument is that this system is about equitable, not equal access. Let me explain. First of all, equal would mean everyone gets the same treatment. In many scenarios, that's actually unfair to people outside the standard deviation. On the other hand, equitable means everyone gets a fair chance at the same experience, accounting for differences in needs or circumstances. Another element to consider is that Alterra is, in all likelihood, going to strictly limit the number of passes they sell so that it's not a significant enough amount to fundamentally change the day-to-day experience. They say they limit it, but don't exactly define what the limit is, so this is another one of those that we have to wait and see. Finally, the third piece of reasoning is just the fact that not everyone values the same things the same way. Some people visit the mountain once a season, while others go every weekend. The first group might be willing to pay more to guarantee easy access, maximizing their limited experience, whereas the second group may be alright with it since they get to go more often. Alright, now, let's get into the part that really makes people bristle, the downsides. Because make no mistake, there are several. First is the visible unfairness. Even if only a few people buy reserve passes, their presence in the lift lines is obvious. You'll see the VIP lane move faster while the rest of us stew in the standard queue. For some, that sense of being left behind can sour the day, even if the lines aren't actually longer. Human perception is weird like that. Another big impact to discuss here is that on locals and recurrent season pass holders. People who ski frequently may find themselves competing with newcomers willing to pay for time, changing the dynamics on popular lifts and trails. A few extra priority passes on a crowded holiday weekend could subtly increase the wait for everyone else, even if the numbers seem small. On a more economic note, now that Alterra has introduced its reserve program, others may feel pressure to match it, creating a race to the top on cost. You all know exactly who I'm talking about. Eventually, paying extra for premium experiences may become normalized, and the baseline experience may stagnate or even degrade. This, to me, is the absolute worst case scenario. And of course, the final piece is just the mental bit, the erosion of the sense of equality on the mountain. Skiing has traditionally had a culture of access for all skiers once you buy a lift ticket. The mountains were where rich and poor recreated in equal fashion, equally enjoying the beauty of nature and the thrill of gravity. Programs like Reserve introduce a hierarchy to it, which may shift the vibe and dynamic of the mountain. People notice these things, and it can breed resentment. I'm noticing that sense manifesting already, before a single one of us hit the slopes. Skiing has always been a sport where, in general, the person you're trying to beat is yourself. Now, not only are the mountains introducing interpersonal competition, they're doing it in a very tangible and lopsided way. If nothing else, the very concept of the passes has the potential to put the snow sports community into a civil war of sorts. Maybe that's the true worst case scenario. So all that said, it just means this. Even if the dollars make sense for the resort and some visitors, there are social and interactive costs that are harder to quantify, and those are the ones that often sting the most. How can anyone justify giving a certain population better access to something that's literally built on public land? The sad reality is that this is just the latest activity to go this direction. However, there is a bit of hope in an unconventional form here. If it turns out to be as bad as we're making it seem, I have zero doubt that there will be a revolution of some sense. In fact, there's already a petition with thousands of signatures against Crystal Mountain's program. It's linked in the description. Now, I know that was a lot to digest, and for many of you it might feel frustrating. But the reality is, the ski industry is experimenting with how to manage limited capacity, customer expectations, and new revenue streams. The biggest unanswered question is whether enough people will buy these passes to noticeably affect lift lines for the rest of us. Unfortunately, we'll just have to wait and see. My hope is that, despite the hoopla, the experience won't be dramatically worse. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, whether that's rant, agree, disagree, speculate, or whatever else you've got. Thank you all so much for watching. All my love, I'm out.